let's continue with The Conjuring 2. Talked about the first one last Sunday, and we got the third one coming out very soon. I'm excited for that. It's got, I think, the same director as Curse of La Llorona, which I was a fan of. I like that one, and more than most people. But yeah, this one is directed by James Wan once again, and it's got, I think, the same writers as the first one. And like I said in my Conjuring 1 review, it's hard. I think I said it. Maybe I didn't. Who knows? I can't remember. But this is hard for me to choose which one's my favorite, like one or two, because they're both so damn good. So yeah, but I think part one's, I would prefer it slightly over part two, razor thin difference. So that's just how great these movies are. So I'm hoping part three is of the same caliber as one and two, because these are like damn near flawless movies. And I'm hoping three won't disappoint, like Spiral, the Book of Saul disappointed me. So the story for this one, it takes place in Great Britain, and we got a single mother raising her four kids, two boys, and one of the daughters is slowly being possessed. She's the one that first starts seeing things, and it gets to a point where it's publicly known. Like the whole town finds out about it. They're getting a lot of media attention, and therefore the Warrens find out about it. The church hires them to go investigate to see if what they're doing over here in Great Britain is real, is it a hoax, so they know whether or not to get the Vatican involved to perform an exorcism, yada yada yada. And this one is damn near flawless, just like the first one. I love this one. For some reason, I didn't even know about it when it first came out. I think this came out in theaters in 2016, if I'm correct, right? 2016? Yep, 2016. I didn't find out about it until like 2017, or maybe even 2018. I forget the first time I saw this, but I didn't even see it at the theater. I saw the first one at the theater. This one just flew right by me. I didn't even notice that it was out. So I wasn't paying attention, I guess, to what was out at the time. So, but yeah, this is a good movie. Let's talk about it. What are my likes for The Conjuring 2? I really like the Amityville opening. There's a lot of bad Amityville movies. In this opening, just 5 minutes or so, is better than anything you'll get out of most of those sequels that are actually Amityville movies, quote unquote. Some of them don't have any continuity at all with the Amityville first couple of movies. And so yeah, this whole opening, fantastic. Just love her like cocking the gun. She's like shooting people, like she's like reliving it through like a vision or something. Just all that stuff, the way it's done, very creepy. And once again, just like part one, we got more amazing cinematography, lots of shadows being used, lots of just dark corners, making you think you're seeing things, and just the way James Wan directs the movie, the way he lights it, just the way it looks. This one's more gloomy and depressing looking than part one. The color palette, just the way the film looks, it looks very depressing. Like it has like this grayish blue hue to the film. Like it just looks like washed out of color. Like it's just, there's lots of like darkly lit grayish, gloomy looking scenes in the movie. It just looks depressing as fuck. But I like that. It goes with the tone and feel of the movie. It's a very sad thing that's going on with this family. It's a broken family. It's not like the family in part one where they're happy at first and they're slowly being torn apart by the haunting. In this one, they're already kind of falling apart with the whole dad leaving them, and we see them struggling. We find, we know why they're not able to just pack up and leave. They're very tight on money. They're not just going to go move to a new place. I mean, the place they're living at already is a shithole. Did you see the walls in that place? It is falling apart. It is decrepit. It is dilapidated as hell. It's worse than the house in Halloween 5. It's fucking awful. Lots of good scare sequences in here that don't feel rinse and repeated from part one. We get a few new cool ones, some really good camera tricks and effects in here. Some good visual effects, like people like going through ceilings and stuff. There's a lot of good camera work in here and tricks that they're pulling off here. And once again, we got Ed and Lorraine Warren, played wonderfully by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. I love them in this movie also, just like part one. And even the child actors in this movie are great. They don't feel like child actors at all. They're not terrible. Like these are the best child actors they could get. Like especially the one that we really focus on here, Janet. Like she really delivers. And she looks terrifying too. When she has to put on that evil smile when she's possessed, she sells it. And we, just like part one, we get more of like the Warren family bond, like, them with this new family. They treat their, quote unquote customers, the people they're helping out, like family. They really care for, like, I believe they give a shit about this family. I just love when they're trying to like fix their pipes. Like, there's some elements in here, just small little connections that you can make as a hardcore fan. If you watch them back to back, especially, you see the small connections, like tiny things, like, oh, they're doing this again. But I love it. I love just all the character moments in the movie, which kind of maybe slows the film down for some people. But there's just a lot of good characters in here, even like side characters, the characters that you think that you would not expect for them to even like shine a light on much or give them much depth. They give them depth. They explore like almost every character in this movie. The gross guy, we find out his motivations, why he cares so much, and like they explore a lot of these characters. They have such great depth, such great chemistry with one another. I really like the characters in this movie overall. And we get the introduction to the nun, which is a great introduction. The way she looks, you got some CGI there. I'm never a fan of CGI. If you can do a practical scary face, do it. But the way she looks when it's way less CGI and just practical, when she's not doing that big old evil like growl or whatever, she looks pretty cool. Like, I love that look that they went with there, and the green glowing eyes, and that scare with her in the living room or the office or whatever with the painting and stuff. Good scare sequence, lots of good scare sequences in here, neat tricks they pull off. And so yeah, and then I love the theme music behind the nun. It's mainly playing when she's around. I can't really describe it, but there's like this certain sound in this movie that they use with her. Good, eerie, scary soundtrack. The only small quibble I have with this movie is that I feel like this movie, comparatively to part one, has less scares. Like, it's not as relentless to me as part one. Like, when it gets going in part one, I feel like it just keeps going. In this one, it has a couple of moments where it does kind of slow down some. It has more like valleys. It's not like all peaks. It's got more valleys to it, a lot more downtime. Like I said, for the character development, we start exploring more characters and stuff. I just feel like this one, compared to part one, it has more downtime to me. It doesn't hurt the film overall. I still love it. But I was just thinking, I was looking at them both because I was trying to think, like, which one do I like better? And I think the first one maybe flows better. It's a little bit more quicker paced to me. So final thoughts, another terrific, damn near flawless film in the Conjuring universe. This sequel is amazing. If you love the first one, I think you'll love this one. I think most people probably might even prefer this one over part one, or maybe it's 50-50. It's 50-50 for me. I have a hard time choosing which one do I like better, one or two. I think maybe one. So maybe it will change one day. I've seen them both equally amount of times. I think I've seen both of these movies 3 times each, 3 or 4, and I still can't decide. They're just both fantastic. They're some of the best modern day horror haunted house possession movies out there that you can see. So when it comes to The Conjuring 2, definitely go out and buy it. So, spoiler discussion. Let's talk more Conjuring 2. We get the whole Amityville opening, which I think, I talked about that. Good stuff there. And we get the nun introduction here, and she's warning Lorraine what she's going to do, or he, whatever, Valak, what they're going to do to her husband if she doesn't back off. She's showing her like something like a year in the future, which is her husband getting killed. And we find out that's the vision that she had in part one. When they do that flashback, we finally get the answer here. What was it that she saw that made her lock herself up in her room for a week without like eating? So now we know why she was so distraught and upset about that vision. Understandably so. And then we get yet another Billy who stutters. How many Billies in movies are stutterers? Like, it seems like every time there's a character in the movie that stutters, their name is always Billy. Billy every time. Like in Stephen King's It, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? Halloween 5, I think that kid's name was Billy. Billy. And we got another one here. It seems like it's a trend. We get a homemade Ouija board here. Very Exorcist-like. Is that what causes all this? I doubt it, but maybe it's just a coincidence. And then we see the Warrens on TV. I like this part of the movie. And, he starts like feeling insulted by the other guy, the other like pundit on that show, and he starts like wanting to curse him out, but then like Lorraine has to like calm his ass down. I love like how different they are. Like she doesn't care what other people think, whereas he kind of does. Like he wants to spread the word and for people to believe. She just wants to, you know, give them other people an opportunity to see the truth, and if they want to believe, then cool. If not, oh well. Like she doesn't let it get to her at all. I just love that difference between them, and again, just their relationship together. Like, calm down, honey, count to 10. Just I love that whole segment. And so then Ed paints the nun, very spot on painting. He's a very terrific painter, and then they use that painting later on in that cool scare sequence, the shadow going across the wall, lining up with the picture and running towards her. That was pretty awesome. And then something I did not see the other couple times I've seen this movie is the word Valak in their kitchen twice. You see the word Valak spelled out in like some weird like arts and craft thing that one of them made. Like it's like this weird thing they made, and it says like Valak. And then on the other side of the room behind Lorraine, it says Valak on the wall also, but it's like missing a letter. So that was a cool thing for people to catch on like a second viewing, or maybe the first time you watched it, you saw it and you're like, "What the hell does that mean? What's with this Valak thing?" Because then later on, you see it a third time when she's in like her office, like the library. There's like this big bookshelf next to her, and she has that vision. You see the word Valak on the bookshelf, so you see the word 3 times at least sprinkled throughout. I would be curious to find out if there's more. If there is, and I didn't mention it here, let me know. I want to see it next time. So that was pretty cool. The fire truck scare in this movie is like the ball scare in part one. That's kind of like this movie's version of that one, with the fire truck is moving on its own. And for some reason, you can't hear it approaching until it's like in frame. Like you would hear that thing coming down the hall. Why did it only start to make noise when it was like in his line of sight? Just a little nitpick there. Just a question. And we get this really cool like day. Actually, it's night to morning transition. It's all one shot. And I looked into the behind the scenes to see how they did that. They had like the actors run back in, and they actually like make the scene transition from night to day. Just the way that was done. Like really good shots in here, good cinematography. It's top notch. So they go into her mom's room and they're like, "Look, there's a bite mark." And she sees it, and they're like, the beds were shaking. And she goes in there alone with, I mean, she doesn't have a husband or anyone. They don't have a guard dog or anything. But she went in there suspecting that there was somebody in there, some guy who attacked their kids, bit their child, one of her kids, on their shoulder with nothing to defend herself. Like, she went in there just completely armless, like, I'm going to take on whoever's in here. Like, she has a lot of faith in herself that she could probably, kick whoever's ass in there. Like, I would have suspected that the mother would have went down in the kitchen real quick, grabbed a knife or something. But I just thought it was odd that she's so quick to dismiss it all. Like, when she goes in there, she sees nothing in the room, and she's just like, "Oh, go to bed, all of you." It's like, well, what about the bite mark? You think she fucking did that to herself? She's just like, "I've had it, just go to bed." It's like, what about the bite mark? She like quickly dismisses it all. But then like the thing moves across the room, and that's when she's a firm believer now.
I don't want to hear another word. Now get back to bed, the lot of you!
I love that in this movie, the cops actually witness paranormal activity when they get there. It's not like other movies where the cops get involved or the neighbor comes in, they're like, "You gotta believe me," and nothing happens. Like, oh, now all of a sudden everything's normal conveniently so that everyone thinks you're crazy. No, they get there and shit starts happening. So now the cops believe it, and this is how they get the media attention, and we get like all these interviews, and you have to wonder as you're watching like how much of what they're saying is true, because some of these people are saying things that they saw there, but we don't actually see it ourselves in the movie. So you're like wondering if this guy was just making up shit, but then some of the other people are saying things that we did see, so they're telling the truth, obviously. I was just wondering, like, is this guy just making up shit? Like, I went in there and a Lego brick came and hit me in the face. I was like, I didn't see that happen. But I don't know. And then you got the typical skeptic, and, it makes sense. That's realistic, having that skeptic character in the movie. You kind of need that here to add some realism to the film, because not everyone's going to believe. There are diehard skeptics out there to the end. When they're doing that interview and she starts speaking like a man, That camera guy looks like Christopher Walken, just in the face. He's much younger, but when you just see like his face behind that camera, tell me it doesn't look like a younger Christopher Walken. Even after hearing that creepy old man, groggy, ill voice, that woman is still a skeptic. This 11-year-old would never be able to pull that off. I don't care how talented of a voice actress you are at age 11, you're not going to pull that shit off without computer effects added to it. Then we get introduced to the Crooked Man, and I'm still surprised this guy has not had his own movie yet. He is kind of scary, but I don't like that they use him twice in the movie. It just didn't seem necessary the second time because of who was seeing him. Like, this Crooked Man is supposed to be like this kid Billy's fear. Like, it's something that's more connected to his character, not Patrick Wilson's Ed. So when Ed sees it later on, it's just kind of like, all right, we're repeating things now. Then we get the whole mouthful of water test, and that's a cool shot, like the shallow focus on Ed, and the background's all blurry, and you can slowly see it transform from Janet to the old guy, Bill Wilkins or whatever. That's a pretty cool scene, but it's gonna make people still skeptical when you can't look. Like, oh, turn your back and then I'll talk. So the fact that they're turning their backs and they can't see that she's talking with a mouthful of water is, of course, going to make this skeptic be like, well, see, you didn't technically see her talk. Your back was turned. Then we get this great scene where she wakes up on the ceiling, and then she goes through the ceiling into that one bedroom that was locked up, and you got like 1,000 crucifixes on the wall. They all start turning upside down. The camera pans around. Guy in the corner comes out of the shadows. Great sequence. I do think it takes a little too long for the Warrens to get there. I mean, think about it. Think about the layout of this house. You got the next room over is the Warrens, and she's screaming, making all this ruckus. Can you describe the ruckus? And then you got her mother across the house, across the hall, down the hall, and she's the first one to respond and hear everything, even though she's that far away. The Warrens should have gotten out of their bedroom and seen what was going on way before the mother. Their father, who's absent in this entire movie, must be a real piece of shit. Apparently he's like around the corner living with like these twin girls he had with a different woman that he cheated on his wife with. And despite all this media attention, despite knowing what's going on with his children over there, what danger they might be in, he never shows up once in this movie to help out. Just shows you what a piece of shit he is. So then Janet, she fakes an occurrence to get them to leave because the ghost is going to kill her family. But then they find out, the Warrens, when the tapes fall on the ground, they play it, and they find out that this jumbled up, this message that was all scrambled earlier from the guy in two separate occasions. If you play them a certain way, it makes a full sentence. They won't let me go. But I just kind of have to ask the question, like, okay, what? Like, why can't you just say it? Like, what was making him only speak every other word? Like, stuff like this, I just have to question, like, well, why couldn't you just say it? They won't let me go. Why were you only able to speak every other word? And then the other, like, it just doesn't make sense. And then the whole, like, what do you call it? A riddle he gives them. Like, why not just say their name? Say the name. But instead, he gives them this big riddle, so they have to, like, solve that. It's like, why can't you just say it? Like, the nun won't let him? I don't get it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. So then she finds the name in the Bible, and I have to question the fact that she doesn't keep, like, flipping. I guess she knows the name Valak already, but if you didn't know that Valak was a name, realistically, any other person would just keep flipping one more page at least to see, like, is there any more letters after this? Like, how long is this name? So that's just a little thing I wanted to point out, because I was just thinking in that moment, you would keep flipping to be like, all right, is this the full name? Is there not more to it? But she flips to the K page, and then she's like confident, that's it. It's just Valak. And then she never flips the page again to see if it keeps going. So I just want to point that out. And then we kind of get like this Exorcist 3 moment when, like, George C. Scott's on the wall and he can't move. Vera Farmiga's on the wall, she can't move, but then she says the name Valak, and then the evil is defeated by saying the name. That's kind of lackluster, but it's the rules, it's the lore of this demon. You just guys say my name, say my name. That song, right? My name is no. That's a stupid song. Can't stand that song. My name is Valak. And so then we get more Crooked Man before that, and like I said, I didn't care for that. And he adds the Crooked Man thing to his collection at the end, just like in part 1. He adds the clown in the music box thing. And this one, we got the Crooked Man thing. And the fact that they didn't use the Crooked Man in Annabelle Comes Home is a sin. Why didn't they do that? It was right there all along. Does it take place before this? Maybe. I doubt it. But that's the end of The Conjuring 2. Let me know what you thought about this movie in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And until next time, Auf Wiedersehen.